I was supposed to be unconscious. That was the whole idea. Heavy meds, post-op sedation, tubes and beeping machines. The kind of scene where you expect silence, sleep, and recovery. What you don't expect is your wife of 9 years emptying your entire savings account while you're lying there immobile, heart rate monitored, fluids dripping into your arm. But that's exactly what happened to me. My name is Jake, and I learned the truth about the woman I shared a home with in the most brutal way possible, while I couldn't even sit up in bed. It started 2 weeks before my surgery. I'd been planning it for months, a long overdue operation to fix a degenerative spinal issue. The kind of thing that creeps up on you over years, until one day you can't bend over without sparks shooting down your leg. I had everything ready. Time off work. Bills prepaid. A solid emergency fund built over a decade, nearly $186,000. I was proud of that number. I worked for it. Nobody handed me anything. That money represented late nights, skipped vacations, old trucks I kept driving long past their due. I thought my wife Marissa appreciated it too. She was there for the struggles, or at least I thought she was. The day I was admitted, she was all smiles. She kissed my forehead, told me she'd take care of everything. "Just rest," she whispered. "You're safe." I remember the warmth of her hand as she gripped mine while the anesthesia crept through my veins. I remember her eyes. That's the last thing I saw. When I woke up 18 hours later, she was gone. That didn't surprise me. It was a long surgery. Visiting hours were limited. Nurses were shuffling around, checking stats. I blinked, groaned, drifted back to sleep. By the second day, I felt alert enough to check my phone. 1 bar of service. Notifications flooded in. Missed calls, mostly from friends and coworkers wishing me luck. Then I noticed the banking app alert. It was subtle. A low balance notification. My chest tightened. I tapped it, slowly, like peeling off a bandage. It opened to a screen I'll never forget. Account balance, $23.76. A second account, the emergency fund, gone too, $0.00. My hands trembled as I refreshed it, over and over. Nothing. Then I saw the text. It came through at 3:04 a.m. from Marissa. No emojis, no explanations, just, "I deserve this after everything I've done for you." I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't respond with rage. I didn't ask why. I just hit reply, sent a single thumbs-up emoji, and locked my phone. I closed my eyes and took a breath. Because while I might have looked like just another broken man in a hospital bed, the truth was, I'd been expecting something like this for months, and I'd prepared. The first time I suspected Marissa of hiding something was almost a year ago. I came home early from a job site, unexpected weather delay, and found her sitting on the couch with a wine glass in one hand and her laptop in the other. She jumped when she saw me, slammed it shut like a teenager caught watching something they shouldn't. "Just looking at recipes," she said too quickly. That laptop never left her side after that. She'd take it into the bathroom, sleep with it next to the bed. I wanted to trust her, I really did. I chalked it up to anxiety, told myself she was just private. But the signs kept piling up. Weird bank charges I didn't recognize. Late-night phone calls with friends I never met. And then there were the lies. Small ones at first. I was at the gym, when the gym had been closed for renovations. Lunch with Sarah, when Sarah had posted pictures from Miami that same day. I never confronted her directly. I needed proof. I started taking screenshots of statements, keeping paper copies of account balances. I moved some of the emergency fund to a separate bank, one she didn't know about. Just enough to survive on if everything went to hell. I never wanted to use it. I hoped I was wrong. But something in my gut said I wasn't. That emergency account, the one she didn't know existed, was the only reason I didn't collapse that day in the hospital. It had $41,300 in it. Not enough to feel invincible, but enough to breathe. Still, what hurt wasn't the money. It was the betrayal. 9 years. 9 years of shared meals, road trips, family holidays. I helped her through graduate school. took night shifts so she could focus on her degree, bought her first car when hers broke down. I never once complained. And now she'd walked away with everything, like it was some sort of reward. I didn't call her. I didn't scream. I didn't ask for anything. Instead, I called my cousin, Daniel, who lived 2 hours away. He was the only person who knew about the second account. I had one simple request. Pick me up tomorrow, don't tell anyone. He didn't ask why. He just said, time? And that was that. That night, I stared at the hospital ceiling and thought about every moment we'd shared. Every laugh, every lie. I wondered when she'd stop seeing me as her husband and started seeing me as an ATM. The next morning, I signed my discharge papers, wheeled myself to the curb, and climbed into Daniel's truck like nothing had happened. We didn't talk much on the ride, just silence and engine noise. When we got to his place, I sat down and started planning. First, I locked all joint accounts. Then I opened a claim with the bank, reported the unauthorized transfers. The manager looked shocked when I showed him my medical records. You were unconscious when these happened? I nodded. She cleaned me out while I was hooked to a ventilator. He filed the report without another word. Then I changed every password, shut down every card, closed every shared login. She wouldn't get another cent. I pulled up my security cam system and downloaded the last week of footage. I'd installed them quietly 6 months ago, just in case. And that's when I saw it. Marissa, in my office, going through drawers, taking documents, pulling out flash drives. She knew where everything was. She'd planned this. Every move was calm, practiced. She even smiled once. I watched it with the sound off, but I could hear it in my head. That fake little laugh she used when she thought she was clever. What she didn't know was that I'd left her a little gift. A single USB drive hidden in a fake power outlet behind the desk. It contained every shady transaction she'd made over the past year. Every hidden account. Every transfer to consulting firms that didn't exist. Because while she was busy planning her escape, I was quietly documenting everything. And now, I had enough to bury her. I didn't respond to her message. Not that night, not the next. While she was out enjoying what she thought was her new life, sipping cocktails in places she didn't belong and tagging herself in expensive restaurants she never paid for, I stayed quiet. I watched. I gathered. Because what Marissa never understood was that while she thought I was just another trusting husband who believed in love and second chances, I had spent a lifetime learning not to panic. 3 years ago, I survived a company collapse. Before that, a car accident that left me immobile for 2 months. I had learned how to wait. And now, while she burned through what she thought was my life savings, I was planning a different kind of response. A permanent one. On day 4, after I left the hospital, I sent a text to a man named Arthur, a retired private investigator I once helped fix his home server for free. I'd built up a network over the years, the quiet, favor-based kind. Arthur didn't ask questions. He just said, "Send me what you have." I forwarded him the bank transfer details, including the exact time I was undergoing surgery, and he confirmed what I suspected. The money didn't just vanish into her personal account. It had been redirected through a chain of small shell companies. Not smartly, sloppily. As if she watched a movie about offshore laundering once and thought she could wing it. In parallel, I reached out to my old HR friend at my previous job. Hypothetically, I said, if someone accessed your employee portal from a hospital bed with a morphine drip in their arm, would that seem suspicious? She laughed, then stopped when I told her the rest. Jake, you need to see a lawyer. I already had one. The thing about marrying someone like Marissa is that you start to learn how they think. She was impulsive. She loved dramatics. And she couldn't resist a confrontation when she thought she held all the cards. So I baited her. I posted a simple message online. Not public, just visible to old friends and mutuals. Finally discharged. Starting fresh. Never thought I'd say this, but sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who dig deepest. I didn't name names, I didn't point fingers. But within hours, 3 people messaged me. Is this about Marissa? One even said, I always thought she had something planned. She was too quiet about money. The fish had swallowed the hook. That night, she texted me again. "You really want to play this out online? Don't forget what I know about you." I replied, "Meet me. Tomorrow, 1 p.m., downtown. We end this." She agreed. The next day, I booked a meeting room at a co-working space I used to rent before the pandemic. Clean, neutral, professional. I arrived early and laid out 3 folders. One for her lawyer, who I knew she'd bring, and one for me. Inside were printouts of everything Arthur and I had gathered. Screenshots, transaction logs, login timestamps, even a screenshot of a WhatsApp message where she gloated to her sister about finally cashing out. When she walked in, she looked smug. Lipstick too red, eyes too confident. Her lawyer, a stiff guy in his 50s with a Bluetooth headset, extended his hand. I didn't shake it. I just pointed to the folders. "You're going to want to look at those before we begin," I said. Marissa smirked. "Jake, what is this? Some dramatic little show? You want to look tough now that I've moved on?" Her lawyer opened his folder and started reading. His eyes didn't even reach the second page before he froze. "Marissa," he said, voice low. "Is this accurate?" She leaned over, read one line, and I saw her face change. Slowly, like a mask melting in heat. Her fingers trembled. I don't know what this is," she said. "I do," I replied. "And so will the IRS, and the state attorney general, and your bank, unless we settle this now." Silence. I leaned forward, calm. "You will return every cent. You will transfer back the investment funds you diverted, and you will dissolve the LLCs you created under my name. You will write a statement admitting to the unauthorized activity, which I will keep as insurance and not submit, unless you violate this agreement." Her lawyer cleared his throat. "I think we'd like a few minutes alone." I nodded and stepped out. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. From the realization that this was working. That I wasn't the helpless patient in a hospital bed anymore. That night, she signed. And I knew it was over when she sent me one final text. "Don't ever contact me again." I didn't. And listen. If you've made it this far into my story, it means something in it probably resonated with you. Maybe you've been betrayed, maybe you've been underestimated, or maybe, just maybe, you're quietly planning your comeback. If that's you, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps more than you know. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it just walks out of a meeting room with the last word. 2 months later, I stood in the same kitchen where she once screamed that I was too slow to keep up with her dreams. Sunlight spilled across the countertop. The espresso machine she bought during one of her impulsive splurges still hissed every morning. Only now, it was mine. Everything was. The condo. The savings. Even the car she left behind when she fled to her sister's house 3 towns over. In the end, she returned nearly everything. Except the apologies. And I didn't need those anymore. I'd sold the story to a journalist friend under a pseudonym, a quiet little feature in a financial justice blog titled, "The Man Who Turned His Divorce into a Data War." It got picked up, then reshared, then turned into a podcast episode. People found catharsis in it, I guess. Not because of revenge, but because someone had finally said out loud what so many suffer in silence. Sometimes, the person sleeping beside you is plotting your downfall with a smile. What Marissa didn't know, what she still doesn't know, is that I had one last play. Before our meeting, I had already filed a report with the IRS, flagging unusual activity. I never intended to press charges, not fully. But it meant she would be audited. Not just this year, but the past 5. Every trip, every purchase, every small lie she whispered into tax forms. Last I heard, she shut down her influencer account and moved in with a friend to reset. I didn't laugh. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I took my second chance seriously. I started offering free cybersecurity seminars to people going through divorces or financial disputes. I shared my tools, my process. I gave them hope and tactics. Because survival isn't about outsmarting your enemy in the moment. It's about outlasting them through strategy. Jake. That's my name. And while my wife tried to erase my foundation, all she did was clear the clutter so I could rebuild sharper, stronger. Some people get lucky, some people get betrayed, and some people get even by simply refusing to break.